Hi everyone, I'm really glad you're here. If you're trying to improve your English, especially your listening and reading skills, you're in the right place. In this series, we'll learn English together through something that's fun, interesting, and meaningful: history from around the world. Each video, I'll share a story from a different country, maybe a famous event, a legend, or something surprising from the past. I'll read it out loud slowly and clearly so you can listen and read at the same time. This will help you understand new words, hear how English sounds in real conversation, and build your confidence step by step. You don't need to study with a big textbook or memorize boring grammar rules. Just relax, listen to the story, and follow along. And don't worry, I'll explain any new words as we go. So, let's enjoy learning English through the amazing stories of our world, one video at a time. Are you ready? Let's begin. Spain is a land of sunlight, history, music, and deep emotion. It sits in the southwest corner of Europe, sharing the Iberian Peninsula with Portugal. To the north are the Pyrenees Mountains, which separate Spain from France. To the south, across a narrow sea, lies Africa. Spain connects Europe to the wider world, and its story reflects this. Today, Spain is home to about 48 million people. But it is not just one kind of people. Spain is full of different languages, cultures, and traditions. In some parts of the country, people speak Catalan, Galician, or Basque, along with Spanish, which is also called Castilian. Each region has its own food, music, dances, and way of life. This mix of cultures gives Spain its rich and colorful identity. When we think of Spain, many things come to mind. The sound of flamenco guitars in a quiet courtyard. The excitement of a football match with cheering fans. Long dinners with family, where meals start late and laughter goes late into the night. The taste of olive oil, jamin, and paella. The bright red of a fiesta. The quiet blue of the Mediterranean Sea. But Spain is not just a country of beauty and fun. It is a place of deep history and strong emotion. For thousands of years, people have lived here, building cities, writing poetry, planting fields, and fighting wars. Many powers ruled Spain over time: Romans, Visigoths, Muslims, Christian kings, and finally, a modern democracy. Spain has known both glory and pain. It created one of the largest empires the world has ever seen, and also lived through civil war and dictatorship. It has been home to famous artists like Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali, writers like Miguel de Cervantes, and architects like Antoni Gaudí, whose buildings still shine in Barcelona. In the past, Spain sent ships across the oceans. Today, it sends ideas, culture, and energy around the world. Its people are proud of their history, but they also work to build a better future. In this lesson, we will explore the story of Spain in 3 chapters. First, we will look at ancient Spain and the time of Muslim rule. Then, we'll see how Spain became a powerful empire and faced deep changes. Finally, we'll talk about modern Spain, a land of many voices, where tradition and change live side by side. This is the story of a country that remembers, that expresses, that endures. This is the story of Spain. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Ancient Roots and the Time of Al-Andalus. To understand Spain, we must go back to the very beginning, thousands of years ago, when the land was wild and full of hills, rivers, and stone villages. Long before there were kings or countries, small groups of people lived across the Iberian Peninsula. Some were Iberians, some Celts, some Basques, a people who still live in the north today, with a language so old that no one knows where it came from. These early people hunted, farmed, and made cave paintings that still survive in places like Altamira, telling us their quiet stories through images of animals and daily life. Then, powerful civilizations from across the Mediterranean began to arrive: Phoenicians, Greeks, and Carthaginians, bringing trade, tools, and new ideas. But it was the Romans, beginning around 200 BCE, who truly changed everything. The Romans conquered the land and called it Hispania. They stayed for over 500 years. They built roads, aqueducts, amphitheaters, and cities, many of which still stand today. They brought Latin, which later became Spanish. They brought laws, religion, architecture, and language that shaped life for centuries to come. Even today, if you walk through towns like Merida or Segovia, you can still see great Roman walls, bridges, and arches. The Segovia Aqueduct, built by Roman engineers, still stands tall and perfect. No cement, just stone and skill. But empires rise and fall. In the 5th century, as Rome grew weak, groups from the north, called Visigoths, came into Spain. They ruled for about 2 centuries, making Toledo their capital. They were Christians, and under their rule, Spain became more religious, more local, and more divided. Then, in 711 CE, something dramatic happened. A small Muslim army crossed the narrow sea from North Africa. In a short time, they defeated the Visigoth king and took control of most of the peninsula. What followed was one of the most unique periods in Spain's history, the time of Al-Andalus. Under Muslim rule, much of southern and central Spain became a land of culture, knowledge, and beauty. The city of Cordoba became one of the largest and most advanced cities in the world. At night, the streets were lit by lamps at a time when most of Europe lived in darkness. There were schools, hospitals, libraries, and gardens. people studied science, math, music, astronomy, and medicine. Great thinkers translated books from Greek, Arabic, Latin, and Hebrew, sharing ideas between cultures and religions. Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together in many areas, not always in perfect peace, but often in shared learning and respect. This mix of faiths and ideas created some of the richest culture in medieval Europe. One of the most famous buildings from this time is the Alhambra, a palace and fortress in Granada. Its walls are covered with Arabic poetry and geometric art. Its courtyards have water that flows gently like music. Standing there today, you can feel the past breathing around you. But while Al-Andalus shined in the south, a different story was growing in the north. Small Christian kingdoms like Castile, Aragon, and Navarre began a long process of fighting to take the land back. This was called the Reconquista, or Reconquest. It was not one long war, but many small battles across hundreds of years. During this time, knights and kings became legends. Castles rose on hills. Stories were told of saints, miracles, and heroes. Religion was strong, and life was often hard. But slowly, the Christian kingdoms moved south. By the late 1200s, only one major Muslim kingdom remained, Granada in the far south. And even that, they knew, would not last forever. The time of Al-Andalus, rich in learning and culture, was ending. But its beauty and spirit would never be forgotten. Even today, the mix of Muslim, Christian, and Jewish roots can be seen in Spain's food, music, language, and art. As the 1400s came to a close, Spain stood at the edge of a new world, not just of war and power, but of ships, gold, and empire. The next chapter would take Spain far beyond its own borders, across oceans and into history books. Chapter 2: Empire, Glory, and Conflict. The year was 1492, and it was a turning point, not just for Spain, but for the entire world. That year, two powerful Christian rulers, Queen Isabella of Castile and King Ferdinand of Aragon, united their kingdoms through marriage and war. Together, they became known as the Catholic monarchs. In January of that year, their armies marched into Granada, the last Muslim city in Spain. After almost 800 years of the Reconquista, Muslim rule in Spain came to an end. But 1492 was not only about victory on land. That same year, the monarchs agreed to support a bold sea captain, an Italian explorer named Christopher Columbus. He believed he could sail west to reach Asia. What he found instead were islands in the Americas. Spain had just opened the door to a new world and a new empire. Over the next centuries, Spanish ships crossed the Atlantic Ocean in every direction. They brought soldiers, priests, and settlers to places like Mexico, Peru, the Caribbean, and beyond. They took gold and silver back to Europe. They brought with them the Spanish language, Catholic religion, and Spanish laws and customs. They also brought violence, disease, and control over the native peoples of the Americas. This period brought great wealth and power to Spain. Cities like Seville and Madrid grew rich. Spanish kings ruled not only Spain, but also parts of Italy, the Netherlands, and lands as far as the Philippines in Asia, named after the Spanish king, Philip II. During this time, Spain became known for its incredible art, literature, and architecture. The Spanish Golden Age gave the world-famous painters like El Greco and Diego Velázquez, and writers like Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, one of the first modern novels. The Catholic Church also had great power in Spain. It helped the monarchy keep control. The Spanish Inquisition, a religious court, was used to force people to follow the church, especially Muslims and Jews who had stayed in Spain after the Reconquista. Many were forced to convert or leave. Others were punished or killed. It was a time of strict control and also great fear. But while the empire grew in size, it also grew in problems. By the 1600s, Spain was often at war. Battles cost money. The government borrowed too much. The gold from the Americas began to run out. In 1588, Spain sent a large navy, the famous Spanish Armada, to fight England. It failed. Spain began to lose its position as the most powerful country in Europe. In the 1700s and 1800s, things became even harder. Other countries, like France and Britain, were rising. Inside Spain, the people grew tired of kings who did not help them. In the early 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte of France invaded Spain. He put his brother on the Spanish throne, and the people rose up in anger. The Peninsular War began. Spanish fighters, called guerrilleros, used surprise attacks to fight the French, and after many years, Spain was free again. But it was not the same Spain. One by one, the colonies in Latin America fought for and won independence. Spain lost nearly all of its empire in just a few decades. In 1898, after losing a war with the United States, Spain gave up its last colonies, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Now, Spain was no longer an empire. It was just a country, and a country in pain. In the early 1900s, Spain struggled. There were strikes, poverty, and deep political fights. In 1931, the people removed the king and created a new government, a republic. For a short time, it seemed Spain might become modern and democratic. But the divisions were too deep. On one side were Republicans, workers, farmers, and people who wanted change. On the other side were nationalists, led by rich landowners. the Catholic Church, and a general named Francisco Franco. In 1936, Spain fell into a brutal civil war. For 3 years, families were divided, cities were bombed, thousands died. Writers and artists came from other countries to help. But in the end, the nationalists won. In 1939, Franco became the dictator of Spain. He ruled with fear, silence, and strict laws. Democracy ended. Newspapers were controlled. Many people were sent to prison or worse. Regional languages like Catalan and Basque were banned in public life. Spain closed itself off from much of the outside world. For nearly 40 years, Spain lived in the shadow of Franco's rule. But beneath the silence, something was waiting, a hope for change, a desire for freedom, and the memory of what Spain had been and what it could become again. Chapter 3: Modern Spain, a country with many voices. When Francisco Franco died in 1975, the people of Spain stood at a crossroads. After nearly 40 years of dictatorship, they asked themselves, who are we now? What kind of country do we want to be? Just before his death, Franco had named Prince Juan Carlos, the grandson of Spain's last king, as the next leader. Many thought Juan Carlos would continue the dictatorship, but instead he surprised everyone. He helped guide Spain toward democracy. In 1978, the Spanish people voted for a new constitution. It created a system of parliamentary democracy, where the people could vote for leaders, speak freely, and live under fair laws. The king stayed, but only as a symbol, not a ruler. Real power was now in the hands of the people. It was a time of great change. Political parties formed, newspapers and books were no longer censored. Artists, writers, and musicians began to create freely again. Spain joined the European Union in 1986, opening its economy and borders to the rest of Europe. In just a few decades, Spain transformed from a closed, fearful country into a modern, democratic nation. But even in this new Spain, the country was not one single voice, it was many voices. Spain is made up of 17 autonomous communities, each with its own local government. Some regions, like Catalonia, the Basque Country, and Galicia, have their own languages and strong cultural identities. In Catalonia and the Basque Country especially, many people feel deeply connected to their region, sometimes more than to Spain as a whole. In 2017, Catalonia even held a referendum to try to separate from Spain. The national government said it was illegal, and tensions remain. These are difficult conversations, but they show how diverse and complex Spain truly is. And yet, this diversity is also Spain's strength. It is a land of different languages, foods, music, and ways of life, all sharing the same space. In Barcelona, you may hear Catalan and Spanish spoken on the same street. In Bilbao, signs are written in Basque and Spanish. In Seville, the sounds of flamenco guitars float out of small cafes. Spain's modern culture is colorful, passionate, and creative. In cities like Madrid and Barcelona, people stay out late, walking the streets, eating tapas, and talking for hours over wine or coffee. Spanish food is simple but rich: olive oil, fresh vegetables, seafood, and cured meats. In every corner of the country, people gather with friends and family to share meals, laughter, and stories. Sport is also a big part of Spanish life. Spain is home to two of the world's most famous football clubs, Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. Games between them are more than just sport. They are full of history, pride, and emotion. Spanish athletes have also shined in tennis, cycling, and basketball. Spain is deeply connected to its past, but also very modern. It leads in renewable energy, technology, and design. Spanish architects like Santiago Calatrava and filmmakers like Pedro Almodovar are known around the world. Spain also invests in clean energy, fast trains, and education. In many ways, it balances old and new better than most countries. But Spain also faces challenges. The economy has had hard years, especially after the 2008 financial crisis. Many young people have trouble finding jobs. In some areas, rural towns are shrinking as people move to big cities. And like all nations, Spain must work to protect the environment, support its growing older population, and keep society fair for all. Even with these problems, the Spanish people are proud, passionate, and resilient. They have come through dictatorship, war, and division. They have learned to argue, vote, disagree, and still move forward together. Today, when you walk through Spain, you might see a Roman aqueduct standing beside a modern museum. You might hear 4 languages in one city. You might pass a loud street festival, then turn the corner into a quiet old church. Spain is a country that remembers, but does not stand still. It sings, it moves, it builds, it thinks, it lives. The story of Spain is long, rich, and full of life. From the cave paintings of ancient people, to the golden cities of Al-Andalus, to the empire that crossed oceans, to civil war and silence, and now to a modern country of many voices and open hearts. Spain is not one story. It is many stories, sometimes painful, often beautiful, always full of feeling. It is a place where history is everywhere, but where the future is always being written. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Spain. We hope you enjoyed the story. Keep reading, keep listening, and remember, every country has a story worth knowing.